Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're tackling something pretty ambitious. We've got this incredible collection of material.
Yeah, it's like a synthesis, really.
Right.
Core ethical traits, character stuff, pulled from several ancient sources, foundational principles for how people should conduct themselves.
Exactly. It's this detailed character map. And what's striking, I think, is how specific it gets.
Oh, definitely. We're not talking vague philosophy here, like live a good life.
Right.
These sources, they give us these really detailed lists, almost technical, you could say.
Moving past the abstract ideas to the nitty-gritty. You know, internal feelings, emotional states, but also very specific social actions.
A complete blueprint, almost.
That's a good way to put it. So our mission today is to unpack these lists. Let's get beyond just the names. Love, justice, humility, and understand the mechanics.
The operational instructions.
Yeah, like what are the 15 actual things that define love when you're living it out? Or what specific actions, socially, economically, actually make up justice?
And for you listening, this is kind of a shortcut, right? A deep dive into character ethics, getting you really well informed on what these sources actually say.
It's about finding those actionable bits. The ethical architecture, as we're calling it.
Looking at character not as like a fixed painting, but more like a dynamic system you have to keep observing and tuning.
Okay, let's jump in. First stop, the foundation. These 9 internal qualities. This seems to be the core of character development, focused really inward, drawn mainly from that Galatians text.
And this is such a crucial place to start because it sets the stage, basically arguing that ethical behavior, it has to be rooted inside first.
In that internal stability.
Exactly. Not just, sheer willpower on the outside.
Yeah.
This cluster of virtues, they're presented more as natural results.
Outgrowths.
Yeah, outgrowths of a balanced inner life, not like 9 separate battles you fight every single day.
Okay.
The writers saw them as universally good. They even say these are things no law can forbid. They just benefit everyone, the person and the community.
Makes sense. So let's start with the first pair, often talked about as the root and the result, love and joy.
Right. So love agape, in that broader sense, is positioned as the primary thing, the driver.
Okay.
It's this active, benevolent concern, wanting the absolute best for the other person. It goes way beyond just feeling fond of someone.
It's a choice.
A choice. Consistent, unselfish action. And if agape is that root, that well-running engine, then joy hierac is what comes out of it internally.
The result.
The resultant state. And joy isn't just happiness, which can depend on, what's happening around you.
Right, circumstantial.
Yeah. Joy hierac is deeper. A foundational contentment, a delight that sticks around even when things are tough. It's like the psychological bonus you get from living an aligned, unselfish life.
Okay, so happiness is when something good happens to me, but joy is this internal alignment that's there regardless of what's happening around me.
Yeah.
That sounds like it takes serious internal discipline.
It really does. And
Yeah.
that discipline, that internal work, leads right into the third quality, peace.
Mm-hmm.
Wapiyong. And peace here means something pretty comprehensive. Tranquility, harmony. We often think of peace as just, no fighting outside.
World peace, community peace.
Right, but this source material, it's really focused on internal peace first. That quiet stability inside your own soul. It's the ability to stay whole, centered, even when there's chaos outside conflict, social upheaval, personal problems swirling around. It's like the psychological antidote to anxiety, to volatility.
Okay, internal peace first. Then following that, we get into traits that seem to govern how we react when that peace gets challenged. We're moving into endurance, specifically long-suffering. Long-suffering. It's a fantastic term, isn't it? Because it's specific. Patience can just be waiting.
Right.
Long-suffering is about enduring provocation, specific hardship. It's that deep well you draw from to absorb insults or sustain slights or just ongoing difficulty without snapping back.
Without retaliating immediately. Exactly. In a world that's all about instant reactions, long-suffering is this conscious choice to, stretch out the time between the offense and your response. It takes a really profound level of emotional control deep down to make sure that outside pressure doesn't just cause this internal explosion, this unvirtuous reaction.
And if long-suffering is about not reacting angrily, the next pair defines how we actively choose to treat others. Kindness, jakpei, and Goodness, Yangxian. You mentioned we shouldn't just lump these together. What's the key difference?
Yeah, this is where the nuance really matters. If we just say they're hand in glove, we kind of miss the structure.
Okay.
Goodness, Youngson, that's the foundation. It's the inherent moral quality, the integrity, the basic alignment towards doing what's right. It's the underlying structure.
The character trait itself.
Right. If your foundation is goodness, you have that moral fiber. Then kindness, Jobby, is the active disposition that flows out from that, the gentle, helpful way you interact. It's the visible action. Think of goodness like a well-designed engine, pure, efficient. Kindness is how smoothly and helpfully that engine delivers its power in day-to-day interactions.
So you can't really have sustained, genuine kindness if the goodness foundation is shaky.
Exactly, because then the kindness becomes selective maybe or self-serving. It won't be consistent.
Got it. So goodness is the character wanting to do right, and kindness is the gentle delivery of that right action. That really does elevate both, seeing them distinctly.
Precisely. They absolutely work together. The solid character producing the gentle, helpful action.
Next up, faithfulness. Chung Song. In our world where commitments can feel pretty flimsy sometimes, what does this foundational virtue demand?
Faithfulness here is about reliability, trustworthiness, sure, but it implies this real completeness, consistency.
Okay.
It's the quality that makes your word your bond, whether it's a huge business deal or just showing up when you said you would. Chung Song means your character and your actions are predictably good. It's about building a reputation not just for being capable, but for unwavering integrity. A faithful person is like a steady anchor in any group or relationship.
All right. Now, another word that often gets misunderstood, gentleness or meekness. On you. Why does this sometimes get interpreted as weakness when these texts clearly mean something very different?
That misinterpretation is a real shame, a loss of the original force of the word. In these ethical contexts, and even in some military texts, gentleness or ennui is defined as strength that's under control.
Strength under control, not weakness.
Absolutely not weakness. It's actually the ultimate expression of power when it's regulated by humility and by graciousness.
Okay.
Imagine like a super powerful engine that's been perfectly calibrated, it has immense potential, but it's applied precisely, gently, not just chaotically unleashed.
Right.
Gentleness is what stops power or intelligence or wealth from turning into arrogance or tyranny. It's restrained strength. It's choosing not to use maximum force when something less, maybe quiet diplomacy, would work.
It actually takes a lot of confidence to be gentle when you could be forceful.
It does. Immense confidence. And finally, wrapping up these 9, we kind of circle back to the beginning in a way. Self-control or temperance. Jolaje.
The capstone.
Exactly, the vital capstone. Self-control is mastery over your own stuff, passions, desires, the need for immediate gratification.
Right.
And the source material explicitly links this back to that internal struggle, the crucifying the flesh and its lusts, as it's often put. If these 9 qualities are like the climate control system for your soul, self-control, Geology, is the thermostat.
Controlling the temperature of everything else.
That's it. If you lack self-control, your internal drives for food, sex, comfort, ego boosts, quick comebacks, they're going to run the show. They'll dictate your external behavior.
Right.
Unchecked desire is basically the enemy of all 9 virtues. Without Geology, you can't really practice long suffering. You'll just react.
You'll snap.
Yeah, you can't maintain peace. You'll be volatile. And you can't truly practice love because you'll always be putting yourself first.
So these 9 are all interconnected, clearly. But does the source material hint at a hierarchy? Like, is self-control the absolute first step?
It seems to function less like a strict hierarchy and maybe more like a dynamic system, where self-control acts as the essential prerequisite for actually showing all the relational virtues outwardly.
Correct.
That internal work of regulating yourself, the geology, is what creates the stability for your outward life. If you're constantly driven by needing validation from others or wanting instant gratification,
Your relationships suffer.
inevitably, you'll see boasting, envy, impatience, selfishness creep in. So yeah, the 9 qualities are the internal architecture, and self-control is like the ongoing maintenance plan that keeps the whole structure sound, preventing it from collapsing under its own internal pressures.
That connection, that bridge between internal desire and external action is the perfect pivot point. We've set up love as this kind of unifying root for those 9 internal traits. But love can sound so vague, just a feeling. And clearly the ancient writers knew that, which is why our sources give us this incredibly detailed, almost overwhelming 15-point operational definition.
Yeah, what love looks like in action, and just as importantly, what it isn't.
Exactly. This is the practical handbook, isn't it, for ethical interaction?
Yeah.
Mostly for 1 Corinthians 13, with bits from Ephesians 4.
It moves us beautifully from section 1, that internal state, to section 2, precise, observable social behavior.
Right.
If love is the destination, this list is like the service-level agreement for how you actually operate within a relationship to get there.
And what jumps out right away is that a lot of the first definitions are negatives.
Yeah.
They set the boundaries.
Use guardrails, yeah. Very clear.
Let's start with those first 3 vices of comparison and ego.
Okay. This cluster really targets those internal attitudes that just poison relationships. First up, love is defined by not being envious or jealous. Tukihaji and himum.
Envy.
It's such a corrosive emotion, right? Because it stops you from genuinely feeling happy about someone else's success.
Right, you're always comparing.
Always. It makes the relationship conditional on how you stack up against them. Love, on the other hand, can celebrate someone else's win without constantly measuring its own position.
Then the classic ego traps.
Yeah.
Not being boastful and not being proud or arrogant.
Yeah. Boasting Duram Haji and Alirman, that's the outward show. The constant need to broadcast how great you are, your achievements. Arrogance or pride, Yomanaji and Animim, that's the internal source. The underlying belief that you're just inherently better than others.
Both are totally self-focused.
Completely. A loving person isn't obsessed with establishing dominance or proving they're superior all the time. If your ego is driving, every conversation becomes a chance for self-promotion.
Which means you can't really listen.
Can't listen, can't truly serve the other person.
These 3, envy, boasting, pride, they really are huge barriers to genuine connection, aren't they? They make everything feel like a competition.
A zero-sum game, yeah.
Right.
Even with friends or family, they just inject toxicity into the whole relational space.
Okay, shifting now to prohibitions around how we behave in social interactions. The first one is about respect. Love is defined by not acting improperly or rudely.
Murihi Hungxian Him. Yeah, this hits on decorum, dignity, respecting boundaries. Love means honoring the person you're with.
How so?
It means making sure your behavior, your manners, even your communication style doesn't trample on their dignity or ignore basic social graces. It's that line between healthy self-expression and just being self-centered. A loving person gets that their actions affect other people's comfort and well-being.
Okay, number 2 is maybe the toughest one for modern life, especially in a capitalist context.
Yeah.
Not seeking one's own profit or self-interest.
Jag Yukul Gucci and Ham. Yeah, this is a radical demand ethically.
It really is.
It's saying that in a genuinely loving interaction or relationship, whether it's friendship, work partnership, family, the main driver can't be personal gain.
If it is.
If self-interest is steering the ship, the relationship just degrades, becomes about manipulation or just quid pro quo calculation.
Right.
Love, by this definition, seeks the actual benefit of the other person, even if it costs you something personally. You're not constantly calculating your own advantage in every single exchange.
Wow. That takes it beyond just an emotional virtue. It becomes an economic one, too. It defines how someone with character approaches deals, negotiations, even just small favors.
Absolutely. If I'm only helping you because I'm expecting you to do something bigger for me later,
That's not love.
that's investment. Love seeks the other's benefit, period, without strings attached.
And connecting back to our first section, the internal states. Love means not being provoked or easily angered.
Shanmeiji and homium, yes. This is long-suffering in action, isn't it?
Sounds like it.
It requires that emotional maturity, that immediate self-control to absorb minor offenses, little annoyances, without blowing up instantly. If you can't control your temper, you create this unpredictable, unsafe feeling around you.
Right.
A loving person chooses stability over just venting their emotions, even if the venting feels justified in the moment.
Okay. And the last 2 negative definitions deal with malice and injustice. Love does not think evil or harbor resentment, and it does not rejoice in unrighteousness or injustice.
This is so important, especially that first part, not thinking evil. Ako sangakji anhyum.
What does that mean practically?
It means you have to practice proactive mental hygiene. Refusing to keep score, that mental list of every wrong someone's done, and actively choosing not to automatically jump to the worst possible interpretation of someone's actions when things are ambiguous.
Assuming the worst intent.
Yeah. If you do that, you're basically poisoning the relationship before they've even really acted. And the second part, not rejoicing in unrighteousness, means aligning yourself with what's morally right.
So not finding satisfaction when something unfair happens.
Exactly. Even if that injustice somehow benefits you or maybe humiliates someone you dislike, love celebrates with the truth, with what's right, and stands against the wrong.
That's a really comprehensive list of 8 things love avoids. It sets a very clear ethical boundary line. But love is also intensely active. So let's look at the positive actions. What it does. It starts with truth, rejoicing with the truth.
Jinri Rul Gipioham. Yes. Love sides with reality with integrity. It doesn't play games with self-deception or encourage convenient lies just to keep things comfortable temporarily.
So, facing hard truths.
If a difficult truth is needed for the health of the relationship or for the person's own good, love embraces it, doesn't shy away.
Okay, and now we hit those famous 4 all things statements.
Mm-hmm.
Covering all things, believing all things, hoping all things, enduring all things. These can sound naive, like they require you to be gullible.
They definitely need context and careful understanding. Let's start with covering all things modian giusol diapiojum.
Okay.
This implies protection, discretion. It's about refusing to unnecessarily expose someone's flaws or their private mistakes, minor weaknesses, just broadcasting them. It shields the person, protects their dignity instead of creating scandal.
All right. Then, believing all things modian giusol medium. This is the one that always trips people up, I think. How can a wise person believe all things?
Right.
Sounds dangerous.
It's absolutely not a call to just be intellectually naive or gullible.
Right.
It's a call for relational trust. It means having a default setting, a predisposition to give the benefit of the doubt, especially when things are unclear or maybe someone's past actions are a mixed bag.
So in a specific situation.
If the choice is between assuming the best motive or assuming the worst, love defaults to trust. It means actively extending credit to the other person's basic integrity until you have concrete proof otherwise. It's a conscious, generous choice, not just passively swallowing lies.
Okay. That frames it as an act of grace, not a lack of critical thinking.
Absolutely. And right alongside that is hoping all things modian giusol barum. This is about maintaining this kind of optimistic perseverance about the relationship's future, even when things are really difficult right now. It's an act of determined optimism, not wishful thinking.
And the final big test of loyalty in this group, enduring all things mudayan giusol giandim.
This is the commitment piece. Staying invested in the relationship even under severe pressure, through difficulties, through failures. It means you don't have one foot out the door, ready to bolt when things get tough.
If you cover, believe, and hope.
Then you have to follow through with the commitment to endure whatever challenges come up in trying to sustain those things.
Okay, we've got these components from 1 Corinthians 13. But the sources add a couple more critical active elements from Ephesians 4, focusing on empathy and mutual aid.
Right, and these provide the kind of emotional engine needed to make that endurance possible. They require being tender-hearted and merciful, bulsangi yogyam.
Which means?
Active empathy, real compassion for the other person's struggles, their weaknesses. And then, maybe most importantly, actively forgiving one another, using your own experience of being forgiven as the benchmark. Young-say.
Forgiveness. The reset button.
The ultimate relational reset. If love has to endure all things, it absolutely has to be able to constantly forgive the things that make enduring necessary, the things that cause the pain.
So we've synthesized this pretty complex 15-point list. Stepping back, how does this incredibly detailed operational definition connect back to that simple internal virtue, love, that we started with?
Yeah.
How does this list function as its practical application?
It builds this amazing three-dimensional picture of how character actually performs. First, love is defined by what it holds back restraint. Those 8 negative prohibitions against ego, anger, self-interest.
Okay.
Second, love is defined by its staying power perseverance. Those 4 all things statements: belief, hope, endurance, covering.
Right.
And third, love is defined by its proactive engagement, mercy, and forgiveness. The simple virtue of love is the foundation, sure, but practicing it means diligently monitoring yourself against these 15 specific behaviors.
So you can't really claim the internal virtue.
Yep. If you're simultaneously boasting all the time, or refusing to forgive, or calculating every interaction based on what's in it for you, this list, it's the blueprint for ethical interaction, precisely because it leaves zero room for fuzzy intentions. It's all about observable behavior.
It really is like a comprehensive quality control checklist for the relationship engine.
Oh,
Wow.
Okay, we've laid out the internal architecture of character, and then we got the detailed operating manual for interpersonal love. Now we're shifting focus pretty dramatically outwards to society, moving from personal character to broader social conduct, moral standards. This is where justice and responsibility really come into play. We're drawing mainly from Micah 6, its philosophical core, and then the incredibly rigorous social checklist in Job 31.
Right. This section defines what obedience looks like in the public square. The questions change, don't they? It's not just, how do I manage myself anyway?
More like, how does a virtuous person handle power? How do they manage wealth? How do they treat people who are, lower on the social ladder? And Micah 6, verse 8, gives us this incredibly concise yet profound three-part framework for ethical conduct from that societal view.
Let's break down that trio: action, attitude, and context.
Yeah.
First, the required action, doing equity or justice. Gongui rule hangam.
Justice here means acting fairly, impartially in all your dealings, social, legal, economic, making sure everyone gets what's rightly due to them.
And correcting wrongs.
Actively correcting wrongs, yes. And notice the verb. It's doing justice. This isn't just thinking about fairness. It's the hard work required to make systems, laws, interactions equitable. It means actively standing up for fair outcomes, even when they might be unpopular or cost you something.
Okay, action first. Then the necessary attitude. Loving kindness or mercy. Jabirul Sarangam.
Because justice alone, while essential, can sometimes become cold, even cruel, if it's not tempered with mercy. Mercy is that compassion you extend even when strict justice might allow for punishment or severity. And crucially, the text doesn't just say do mercy, it says love mercy.
Ah, I love it.
Yeah. It has to be our default mode, something we enthusiastically choose, not just a grudging obligation. This stops our pursuit of justice from becoming hard-hearted or completely unforgiving.
And the third pillar provides the context, connecting back to our foundation. Walking humbly with one's God. Jiumsuni hanamanke bokjangum.
This anchors social ethics in humility. It's the recognition that our human attempts at justice and mercy have to operate within a larger moral framework, something that transcends our own biases and perspectives.
Keeps us in check.
Exactly. Humility is the antidote to self-righteousness. It stops us from thinking our actions, even just ones, are the be-all and end-all. It keeps the powerful accountable, ensuring their pursuit of justice isn't just corrupted by ego or a desire for control. So these three, justice, the action, mercy, the attitude, and humility, the context, they form this complete framework for social conduct.
Okay, framework established. Now we dive into the amazing detail of Job 31. This isn't just general principles. It's this exhaustive personal oath, declaring innocence against very specific social and ethical failures. It might be the most demanding social conscience test in all our source material.
It's truly remarkable because it forces you, the listener or reader, to confront those private actions, those internal attitudes that often escape human judgment or law.
Where does it start?
It kicks off with a very clear line against infidelity and deception concerning a neighbor's spouse. Declares it a serious crime, deserving judgment calls it a fire that consumes to destruction.
Wow.
So right away, it establishes that basic requirement of fidelity, respecting relationship boundaries, which is just fundamental for social trust.
But then it pivots immediately to economic integrity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Specifically warning against making gold the source of hope or trust.
Yes, Janel, Sinurbalaji, and him. This is profound. It essentially equates materialism with a form of idolatry.
How so?
It's not just about having wealth, it's about trusting in wealth. The text explicitly links trusting gold, saying to find gold, you are my security, with the same level of error as worshiping the sun or moon or idols.
So putting your ultimate faith in your finances.
Exactly. If you make wealth the ultimate source of your security, your identity, your hope for the future, you've put it in the place that should be reserved for the highest ethical standard or ultimate reality.
So the test is, when fear strikes, where do you instinctively turn? If it's your bank account.
Then you've potentially violated this ethical principle, according to this text. It forces a moral declaration about where your ultimate reliance lies. A virtuous person manages wealth responsibly, sure, but doesn't depend on it for their core sense of security or purpose.
And linking that internal integrity to public life, the oath speaks against hypocrisy, hidden sin, asking if one has ever concealed my sin, hiding my iniquity.
Right. This demands congruence. Walk the talk. Virtue has to be lived, not just performed for show. Job is essentially swearing that his private life matches his public image.
Why is that transparency so important for social ethics?
Because hidden sin always carries the risk of corrupting your judgment, your interactions. If you're hiding significant moral failures, your ability to truly do justice and love mercy is compromised. You're operating defensively, fearing exposure.
Okay, now we get to what many see as the absolute core, the most demanding part of this Job 31 oath.
Yeah.
The treatment of the marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
This is that vertical test of fairness, how the person with power treats the weak, the voiceless, the vulnerable.
And the level of detail here is just extraordinary. It shows that righteous conduct isn't just about not doing bad things to the vulnerable.
It requires more.
It requires specific, active kindnesses and rigorous avoidance of neglect. It's not enough just to avoid active malice. You have to actively engage.
Let's start with the attitudes it prohibits.
Yeah.
Not showing contempt for the weak or poor, not neglecting or abandoning them, not oppressing them.
Right. Yakjadul olmiosihajianhim, not showing contempt. Contempt is that internal attitude, that feeling of superiority that makes it okay to treat someone badly or ignore them.
So it starts inside.
It starts with recognizing the equal humanity of the poor internally. That sets the standard for dignity. Then, externally, the powerful must not use their position to exploit the vulnerable, that's oppression. Nor can they just ignore suffering when they see it, that's neglect or abandonment. These ethics demand attention, dignity, and absolute non-exploitation towards anyone with less power.
But it goes beyond just not harming. The requirements are also incredibly active. The virtuous person has to actively care for the weak, the orphan, the widow, the hungry.
Job details this with such concrete physical examples. He says things like, if I have kept the poor from their desire, or caused the eyes of the widow to fail.
We're eaten alone.
Or if I have eaten my morsel alone, and the orphan has not eaten of it. These are practical, measurable acts. Sharing food, clothing, providing warmth, doing it proactively. It takes the idea of mercy from theory into real, tangible, physical support. This is where ethical character becomes visible on the ground.
And there's that remarkable focus on treating servants or employees fairly in disputes. Recognizing shared creation, that's a powerful statement on labor ethics, even back then.
It's truly revolutionary ethically. It cuts right through class structures. Job says, if my male or female servant has a complaint against me, I wouldn't dismiss their case out of hand. I wouldn't hold them in contempt.
And the reason why?
The justification is stunningly universal, theological. Did not he who made me in the womb make him also? Did not the same one fashion us both?
Wow.
This demands universal fairness, regardless of social rank, job title, hierarchy. The great ethical equalizer is recognizing we share the same origin, the same creator. If the creator values us equally, then our social status becomes ethically irrelevant when it comes to a dispute about fairness.
That reframes every single employer-employee dynamic, doesn't it? Fairness isn't charity, it's demanded.
Precisely. If you aspire to be righteous, according to this text, you have to listen to your servant's grievance with the same seriousness you'd give a peer's complaint.
Okay, finally, how does this virtuous person behave towards the ultimate outsiders? Enemies and strangers.
This pushes love and justice beyond just your own tribe or community. First, the negative. You must refuse to rejoice at the destruction or suffering of an enemy. Wansui Zhangwuld Kipuhaji and Hemum.
That's tough.
It's a supreme psychological test, isn't it? Resisting that base human urge for schadenfreude, that secret satisfaction when your rival falls. The text even says Job wouldn't curse his enemy's death, wouldn't let his lips sin in that way.
So maintaining moral integrity even towards antagonists.
Even when they're defeated or suffering, yes.
Yeah.
And the positive side of that coin is extending kindness to the stranger practicing hospitality.
Najin Dazit.
Right. The righteous person ensures the traveler isn't left sleeping rough. In the ancient world, hospitality wasn't just niceness. It was often vital, life-saving.
Opening your door.
Opening your door, making sure the community provides for the transient, the disconnected person passing through. It proves your ethics aren't just tribal, they're universal.
Okay, this is a huge, incredibly specific list of ethical demands, from faithfulness in marriage to listening to a servant's complaint fairly to not trusting wealth. How do all these seemingly unrelated actions actually unify under that banner of justice and humility from Micah 6?
They unify because, at their core, they all represent impartial love put into practical action. Justice finds its real test in how it's applied to those who can't repay you, the servant, the orphan, the widow, even the enemy.
And humility.
Humility ensures that your own wealth, your social standing, doesn't blind you ethically. If you maintain fidelity, treat employees fairly because you recognize your shared creation, view the poor with dignity, reject the idolatry of money, and refuse to gloat over your enemy's misfortune.
You're living out justice and mercy.
You are fulfilling the core demands of both justice and mercy in every direction vertically, towards those below you, and horizontally, towards peers and outsiders. The Job 31 Oath isn't just a random list of good deeds, it's like an exhaustive, practical commentary on what do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly actually looks like day to day. It's the evidence file for character.
It really is the ultimate test of ethical integration in society. All right, we've covered the internal character framework, the detailed rules for love and relationships, and the broad societal duties of justice. For our final section, we turn to what might be the ultimate pressure test. How do you actually embody all these virtues when you're facing hardship, when you're suffering unjustly? This is the standard for conduct and suffering, drawn from 1 Peter 2.
Yeah, this moves us past the ethics of, say, prosperity, like Job declaring his innocence while he still had everything. This provides a blueprint for how to behave when you are actively being wronged, when you're suffering, when you're maybe in a totally hostile environment.
And it's presented as a standard to follow.
As an example, a footprint is the term sometimes used. The idea is that a truly virtuous life has to be sustainable, even when life itself feels completely unfair.
The first two traits seem to lay the groundwork. Integrity, even under pressure.
Exactly. The standard demands, first, not committing sin, biam johajianahim, and second, having no deceit or guile in your speech, ibegwe saga iapsiam.
Why is that so crucial when suffering?
Because when you're attacked unfairly, the gut reaction is often to lash out, maybe lie, exaggerate, justify yourself using any means possible.
Right, self-preservation kicks in.
But this virtuous standard demands absolute integrity, complete truthfulness. It ensures that any suffering you endure is, in a sense, pure. It's not muddied by your own moral failures or dishonesty in response.
Okay, that integrity then leads straight into this radical idea of non-retaliation, which feels like the heart of this section.
It really is.
When you're insulted, reviled, the virtuous person refuses to return the insult. When suffering, refuses to make threats.
This is basically gentleness, that strength under control we talked about, applied in the most extreme circumstances. Yogol baradu yoghajian hiam, taking verbal abuse, but refusing to descend to the abuser's level.
And the other part.
Gotong yul baradu wayayopaji and hiam, enduring pain, punishment, yet refusing to use any remaining leverage you might have to threaten or intimidate your tormentor. It ensures your response stays ethical, not just reactive or driven by emotion. It breaks that cycle of tit-for-tat hostility.
That sounds almost psychologically impossible for most people. It means suppressing that primal urge for immediate payback, for reciprocal justice.
It does.
So if you're facing ongoing injustice and the virtuous path is refusing to retaliate, where do you put your hope for things being made right?
For vindication.
You place your trust in higher judgment. The text says the righteous person commits the whole situation, the fairness, the vindication to the one who judges righteously.
This is that vertical submission, that humility from Micah 6, applied directly to your personal pain. It's refusing to take vengeance into your own hands, trusting that ultimate impartial justice will eventually prevail, even if it's outside of human systems or timelines.
That takes enormous self-control.
Huge, because you're essentially handing over your perceived right to retribution.
You have to surrender that narrative of being the victim who needs immediate satisfaction and choose patience instead.
Exactly. And the final ultimate trait described in this model is sacrificial love, bearing the burden of others' wrong actions.
Bearing their burden.
This is presented as the absolute peak of virtue in this context. It means actively choosing to absorb the negative consequences of someone else's wrongdoing. Bearing the weight of their actions, sarang, euro, jo rule, dasin, jo mio, jim.
How does that work?
It sets the highest possible standard for empathy and for conduct that can actually transform a situation. The suffering you endure isn't just endured passively. It potentially leads to a positive moral outcome, maybe even freedom or restoration for others. It moves beyond just avoiding ethical wrongs yourself into actively restorative moral action.
Okay. We've looked at two incredibly powerful yet different tests of character in our sources. We have the Job 31 Oath, the declaration of blamelessness from a position of power and prosperity. And then we have this 1 Peter 2 model, the blueprint for conduct while suffering profound injustice. Let's synthesize this. Why is the way someone handles undeserved pain considered the ultimate test of virtue, maybe even surpassing Job's excellent conduct?
That's a great question. Job 31 is fundamentally the test of prosperity and power. It measures your ethics when you have the resources to be generous, when you have the social standing to command respect, when you have the means to ensure fairness for others. It's the ethical test for the comfortable, the influential.
You're judged on your generosity and restraint when things are basically good for you.
Precisely. The 1 Peter 2 model, though, that's the test of poverty, but not just financial poverty. Poverty of power, poverty of reputation, loss of control, loss of physical comfort.
When everything's stripped away.
Exactly. When you're being insulted, reviled, suffering unjustly your entire internal architecture, all those virtues like gentleness, self-control, long-suffering, they are under maximum stress. They're pushed to their absolute limit.
So the real test is?
If, in that moment of utter loss of control, you can still maintain honesty, still refuse to retaliate, still commit your cause to a higher justice, it proves something profound. It proves that virtue isn't just something you do, it's become who you are. It's integrated, reflexive.
Suffering reveals the foundation.
It strips away all pretense. It shows the true underlying integrity or lack thereof. It proves whether your character is just circumstantial, dependent on good times, or if it's absolute, consistent even under fire.
That sets an incredibly high standard for a virtuous life. Yet, it's remarkably consistent across these diverse ancient sources. It really demands everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does. It's a total commitment.
Wow. This has been genuinely exhaustive, a detailed look at this architecture of virtue. Let's just take a moment maybe to quickly recap the 4 huge pillars we've explored today, the journey we took.
Good idea. So we kicked off with the foundation, those 9 internal character traits, primarily from Galatians, defining that essential inner climate: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, self-control, and the rest.
Right, establishing those as the necessary internal conditions for ethical action, with self-control being almost like the master switch.
Exactly. Then Pillar 2 was the operational manual for relationships, the 15 detailed components of active love, drawing from 1 Corinthians 13 and Ephesians 4.
Giving us that practical specificity, the things to avoid, like ego, self-interest, malice, and the active requirements, like endurance, truth, mercy, forgiveness.
Pillar 3 took us into social ethics. That comprehensive list of actions built around justice, mercy, and humility, primarily from Micah 6, and that incredibly detailed Job 31 oath.
Which really hammered home that ethical life is measured concretely by how we handle wealth, maintain personal integrity, and crucially, how we treat the marginalized, the servant, the orphan, the widow, even the enemy.
Absolutely. And finally, Pillar 4, the ultimate pressure test. The model for conduct and suffering from 1 Peter 2. Demanding non-retaliation, complete honesty, and that radical trust in higher justice when facing undeserved pain. Proving character integrity under fire.
Okay, so looking across all 4 pillars, what's the big takeaway, the overarching theme that ties all this together?
I think the clearest theme is this. The knowledge we've pulled from these sources defines a virtuous life not as some kind of static state, like just being a good person passively.
Right.
Instead, it's presented as a rigorous, ongoing, disciplined practice. It involves specific, often very difficult actions and equally specific, intentional restraints. It requires mastering your internal world, taming the ego, controlling desires, precisely so you can achieve a positive, just, and merciful relationship with the external world, with other people.
That comprehensive blueprint is, well, it's a phenomenal insight. But let me leave you, our listener, with one final thought, something to perhaps chew on as you process all this. We've established pretty clearly that a virtuous life, according to these texts, is fundamentally defined by 2 key things: how we treat the marginalized, those with less power.
And how we handle our own suffering, especially when it's undeserved.
The standard is incredibly high, demanding absolute specificity in our actions, not just good intentions.
Exceptionally high, yes.
So here's the provocative thought. If we were judged today not by our general feelings of goodwill or our intentions to be kind, but judged strictly against that exhaustive, measurable checklist from Job 31, the specifics. Did I actually clothe the naked person I encountered? Did I ensure my employee's complaint was heard fairly, recognizing our shared creation? Did I consciously refuse to let money become my ultimate security? Where would our actual practical ethical conduct be laid bare? The virtuous life, it seems, isn't measured by how we feel, but by the relentless specificity of its application, especially towards those who can offer us nothing in return.
That's a powerful challenge to sit with. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the architecture of character.
We'll see you next time.